Words that end with Y. As our learners come across longer words in their reading and those they need to spell, we want to be sure to teach them strategies that support their development. One of the tools we can use for teaching them is teaching them the rules for adding suffixes to words. We might want to teach them things like teaching the two kinds of suffixes, whether they should add S or ES to words, the doubling rules, the E-drop rule, and adding suffixes to words that end in Y. Today, I want to focus in on the last one on our list. Now, adding suffixes to words that end in Y is a tricky concept, so it must be broken down into bite-sized steps. For example, why is it that the final Y in baby and happy does get changed to an I, but the final Y in words like stay and valley doesn't? And that's a great question. The first place I like to start when teaching about final Y is final Y plus ing. Now, ing is a very common suffix, and this is a really simple rule, and that's why it's a great place to start. And here is what it says. If you're adding ing to a word, just keep the final Y. Now, here are just two examples, copy and enjoy. And when you add ing to these words, you don't change the Y, you just add the ing. Now, the reason we keep the Y is that if we were to change it to an I, we would have a double I, and double I is not a vowel team in the English language. The only word I can think of with double I's in it is the word skiing, and that's because it's borrowed from another language. So once your learners understand adding ing to words, the next step when teaching about final Y is when they should change it to an I. Now, this one also is a very common pattern that learners need when they're reading and when they're spelling words. So let's explore that a bit. Final Y gets changed to an I when you're adding a suffix, any suffix to the word. This can be a vowel suffix or a consonant suffix, but you got to remember we're not including ing in this list because it follows its own rule. We just talked about that one. We also need to look at the base word because it needs to have a consonant that comes before the final Y. Let's look at our two examples really quickly. We have baby and happy. If you look at these two base words, you can see they both have a consonant that comes before the Y. In baby, we have a B, and in happy, we have a P. And if we add suffixes to the words, notice we have ES, which is a vowel suffix, and NESS on the word happy, which is a consonant suffix. And because a consonant comes before the final Y and we're adding a suffix to each of these words, we change those Y's to I's when we add the suffix. All right, once your learners understand when they need to change Y to I, they're ready for the third step. Now, this time again, we're not going to change the Y to an I before adding the suffix. So final Y does not get changed to an I when you're adding a suffix to a base word, and here's the key, that has a vowel before the final Y. And one of the reasons why I saved this one for last, it may seem easier. One of the reasons I save it for last to be the one to teach is because you're dealing more with vowel teams. All right, so let's look at two examples. We have stay and valley. Both of these base words have a vowel that comes before the final Y. And then we're going to add suffixes to each word. We have ED that's been added to stay. And we have an S that's been added to valley. So it doesn't matter again if it's a vowel suffix or a consonant suffix here. But because you had a vowel that came before the final Y in each of these words, we have A before the Y in stay, E before the Y in valley. We do not need to change the Y to I's before we add the suffixes to these words. Here's some things I need you to remember about teaching suffixes to words with the final Y. These are bite-sized steps. Try to start with the simple ing rule. Next, teach your learners when they should change Y to I. And last, Teach them when they do not need to change Y to I. I've created some free printables on my blog that you can use to practice words with final Y. I also have an interactive inflected endings bundle pack in my shop that has games and activities for practicing this skill and many others related to adding suffixes. The links to these resources can be found in the description below. And as always, thanks for joining me at This Reading Mama, where you'll find hands-on learning for home or school.